Alright, welcome to this video on fraction, decimal, and percent applications. In this video, what we're going to do is, I've got some examples here. We're going to go to a fraction, then a decimal, then a percent, and then shade the appropriate amount of each grid, which has 100 grid squares. Okay, so let's start with this one. And we've got 1/2. So we want to get 1/2 as a decimal, and if you're probably going to start memorizing this, but 1/2 as a decimal, the way we would do that, remember how we read this right here. Read that as 1 divided by 2. Okay, so let's just do that right here real quick. 1 divided by 2. 2 goes into 1 0 times. Put our decimal. Bring down another 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. We have a 0 remainder, and we're done. Okay, so our decimal is 0.5 or 5/10, right? Okay, now on to the percent. Now, one of the quickest ways that we did percent was we have 0.5 right here, right? 5/10. We move the decimal place 2 places to the right, so 1, 2. This then becomes 50, and we add the percent sign. Okay, so 50%, right? Okay, easy enough. 50%. Now for the shading. Okay, now remember we have the way this is set up. We have 10 rows and 10 columns. So 10 by 10 grid. Alright, hopefully this fits on the screen. 10 by 10. So if we want to shade 50% of this box, which has 100, remember this is a good application to put our percent over 100, right? Remember we can take, to go back to another fraction, we can take everything in front of the percent sign, which is 50, put it over 100, and that gives us a fraction. If we reduce this fraction, of course we're going to end up with 1/2, because 50, the quickest way to reduce that would be to use 50. 50 goes into 50 one time, and 50 goes into 100 two times, okay, and we're reduced. But for this application right here, the easiest thing to do is put our percent over 100, and that gives us the number to shade. So we need to shade 50. We know there are 10 squares here. So 10 right here, there are 10 right here, and there are 10 right here. So we're up to 30, right? 10 more is 40, 10 more is 50. Okay, so we shaded, and I can go in, I'll pause the video and actually shade this for us, okay? Okay, so we got that shaded now. As you can see, we have 50 out of 100, just like we said with this fraction right here. Okay, so 50 out of 100 gives us our 50%. Alright, so let's go on to the next one. Alright, so we've already got our fraction here, and we want to know what the decimal and percent equivalent of that is. So we have 1/4, so let's do the 1/4 is same as 1/4. So now let's do the decimal, and remember the way we do that: 1 divided by 4. Of course, if we have a calculator, we can just punch it in, but we'll do it this way. 1 divided by 4. 4 goes into 1 0 times. Put in our decimal, bring in another 0. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. We have 2 left over. Bring in another 0. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And 0 remainder. We are done. And our decimal is 0.25 or 25 hundredths. Okay, so we'll just put that here, 0.25, which is 25 hundredths. Alright, and let's go to our fraction. Remember what we do: move the decimal 1 2 spots and put a percent sign on it. So we move the decimal 2 places to the right here. We'll come up with 25 and slap on our percent, and we're done. So 25%. And one of the easiest ways to get this done is to just take our percent, put it over 100. So 25 over 100. We know we have 100 squares here, and that tells us that we need 25 out of 100, 25 out of 100 of these squares shaded, and that will get us our 25%, 25 hundredths, or 1/4, which is this fraction reduced, of these boxes shaded. So let's get that done. Alright, so we've got 25 of these shaded. We've got 10 here, another 10 here makes 20, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25 shaded. We could have shaded them across this way, that would have been just fine. But the point is, we have all of this is equivalent. 1/4 of this box shaded, we've got 0.25 or 25 hundredths of this box shaded. We've got 25% of it shaded. We've got 25 out of 100. However we say it, it's all equivalent. That's the key that you need to make sure that you're understanding. Alright, let's do this one. Okay, we have 3/4 now. Let's go to a decimal. You know the drill by now. If we have a calculator, punch 3 divided by 4 into it. Otherwise, we'll do it by hand. So 3 divided by 4. 4 goes into 3 0 times. Put our decimal. Bring in a 0. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. We have 2 left. Bring in another 0. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 0 remainder. We're done. So we have 0.75, which is 75 hundredths, and do our percent. You know the drill again by now. We move our decimal 1, 2 places to the right and add a percent sign, 75%. And you will start memorizing these very common ones, especially these quarters or fourths, because that really relates to a dollar very easily with a quarter. 25 cents at a time, and you can see that here. 3/4 of a dollar would be 75 cents. 1/4 of a dollar would be 25 cents. 1/2 of a dollar would be 50 cents, and so forth. Okay. So the last thing we want to do here is get this shaded. I will shade it across like this time, just so you can see that is still equivalent. So let's do that. Alright, we've got that shaded. We've got 75 out of 100, remember? That's how we easily came to that number that we needed to shade. 75 out of 100 is this percent into a fraction here, which is reduced, means 3/4, right? We could, to reduce it, the easiest thing to do would be to take 25. 25 goes into 75 3 times. 25 goes into 100 4 times, and there we have it, that reduced again. Okay, so 75 out of 100 of these are shaded. We have 7 rows shaded. Remember, rows go this way. I'm sorry, columns go this way, and rows are across. Even I can misspeak sometimes. Okay, so columns up and down, just like that hold up a building, remember, and the rows go across. So we have 7 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which makes 70, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 75. Okay, alright, let's do the last one here, and then what we're going to do is put these on the number line down here. Okay, that'll be the last thing that we do. Alright, so 1/10. Alright, well, you might know, let's approach this another way. We know that remember from our decimal basics video, that we know what a tenth is, a hundredth, a thousandth, based on where that decimal place is. So we have our 0 here, we have our decimal. What is the first place after the decimal to the right? It is 1/10, right? Or it is tenths, I should say. And if we have one of those tenths, it's that simple. 1/10. Okay, that's a lot faster to do that this way. It makes tenths very easy to work with, and that's always a lot faster. Just so we do it the same way every time, let's do by hand here. 1 divided by 10. 10 goes into 1 0 times, put in our decimal. 10 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 10 is 10. And we have a 0 remainder, so we are done, and there's our decimal. Okay, now our percent, remember what we do here. We simply move it 1, 2 places to the right, which is going to make that 10. 1, 2 places to the right, add our percent sign, and we have our percentage. Alright, so let's just shade this real quick together. we know that, let me write this, okay, with our percent we can always put that over 100, take what's in front of the percent sign, put that over 100, gets us our fraction. 10 over 100, or 10 out of 100 here, means 10 out of these 100 boxes will be shaded, right? That's nice and easy. We can reduce this to get our 1/10, since it is all equivalent. 10 goes into 10 one time, 10 goes into 100 10 times, 1/10. Okay, so now we're equivalent. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. 10 out of 100 is equivalent to 1/10, whether it's reduced or not. Okay. Now, let's do our shading here. We'll do that together since that one's easy. Just 10 of these. We'll go to shade one column. We could shade one row. Doesn't matter. It's all the same. Alright. There we go. So we are done with that part. Alright. Now let's come down here and let's put in our on our number line. Okay, so I'm just going to write these off to the side what we've got. My opinion is when you're working with the number line and you're trying to put numbers in order, that's what you're asked to do. I think the decimals are the easiest thing to work with. You may decide that you want to work with fractions, and that's okay, but again, whether you like fractions, decimals, percents better, you need to use what makes the most sense to you and clicks in your brain, because we know you know how now to make these conversions very easy. You're very good at this by now. So if you're given a fraction, you can convert it to a decimal if that's easier for you. If the fraction's already easier, just use that. So let's put this on the number line now. Okay, so let me write them out here. We've got, first we had 5/10, we had 25 100ths. Okay, we had 75 100ths, and I'll have to squeeze this down here, and we had 1/10. Okay, so let's put these on a number line. Alright, let's go least to greatest. Okay, the easiest thing to do is start in the tenths place, and we want to look for, of course we know where the tenth place is. We've discussed that in our basics of decimals video. The tenths place is here, here, and here, right? So which one of those is the smallest in the tenths place? Well, 1, this one has a 1 in the tenths place, this has a 5, this has a 2, and this has a 7. So the 1 is the smallest, right? Right here. So we can just put that in. Let me get rid of all of these arrows, and we'll just go ahead and come over here and put that in. So we'll just put it about 1/10 of the way, right? Because that's 10% between 0 and 1. So we'll put 0.1 right here. 1/10. Alright, so next, which has the smallest number in the tenths place? Well, of those remaining, okay, I'm going to mark this out since we're done. Of those remaining, the 2 is the smallest, right? 2 is smaller than 5, is smaller than 7. Okay, so the next one, we'll just put that about right here. It's important to start thinking about the scale of this as well. 25 100ths, you can see that's roughly about 1/4 of the way, right? Or 25% of the way, or 25 100ths of the way between 0 and 1. And of course, you know that here is 0 on our number line, here is 1, and all of these that we came up with are less than 1 but greater than 0, right? So we know they're going to fall between here. Alright, so we've got that one done. So which one is smallest now in the tenths place? That's where we started. And 5, right, is smaller than 7, so that goes next. 5/10 is the same as 50%, is the same as 1/2, so it's 1/2 the way. So let's just put that, we can eyeball that, that's about right there. Put that here. Alright, that's done. All we have left is 75 100ths, and that's 3/4 of the way, right? 75% of the way along, so that's about right here. So let's put that in, and we are done. So nice work there. This is a great application using what we've learned so far, and a lot of it would have been a review most likely, but a good process to go through nonetheless. See you in the next video.